now we're gonna read a story called The Meltdown. So now, if while when I'm reading a book, I'm really sorry of you because while when I'm reading this book, it can be noisy because my dad is fixing my bedroom, and because just fixing my bedroom to make it more beautiful. So that one he have to cut some metal and wood, so that's why he have to, and so that's why it's so noisy. He used to cut. He's doing some good working and some with some work with some metal. So you if it was noisy, then I'm really sorry about it, but that's okay. So let's read a book called The Meltdown. Ouch, my hair hurts. Let's just put it to this rubber band. Okay, so let's start. So on Monday, when I woke up this morning, it was below freezing outside. I was realized it actually felt like winter again. But when Mom told me I had to wear thermal underwear to school, I thought maybe global warming isn't such a bad thing after all. I hate wearing thermal underwear because it's uncomfortable and full of ridiculous. Wearing mannequin at the mall, but when I put it on, just looked like a liquid superhero. But when the mannequin at the mall are always super buff, and they make guys like me who can spend 3 hours in the gym every day like a bad thermal gear. So I ever had in really good shape, I'm gonna sign up for the mannequin model because that would be an awesome thing to brag on that date. Recognize that body? The mannequin you see at the sports store are always athletic poses, and it looked like it will be hard to stay in the position while someone sculpts you, but then just too much effort for a job that should be easy. So when I apply for the job, I'm gonna do it. I'll do it at the bed store. Mom says I'm lucky to have thermal underwear because our sister didn't have this kind of stuff to keep them warm. Sometimes I wonder about our sisters, though I have no idea why they choose to live here. But when they couldn't pick somewhere a whole lot warmer, looks good to me. But I can't complain because they survived and everything they did led direction to me. I just wish they could see how it turned out so they'll know all the terrific were worth it. I guess we're all lucky to be here because human beings have had to go through a lot to get to where we are now. At school, we learned that 10,000 years ago, a big sheet of ice covered half the planet, and if people made it through that, I guess we can get through anything. My teacher said that one day the Earth is gonna be in another ice age and the glaciers will come back. But I hope it doesn't happen anytime soon. I heard glaciers move slowly, which is a good thing because maybe I'll have a chance to do something about it. Flash, flash. I don't know which is worse, a planet that's too hot or one or too cold. All I know is that today it was cold and it wasn't fun walking to school in the morning. I try to cheer myself up by thinking of things I like about the winter. But I came up with a really short list. Christmas is a great and all, but after that just a long slog to the spring. So I decided the only thing that actually makes winter worse is that hot chocolate. I used to be on the safety patrol and I'll get free hot chocolate at school. But after I got kicked off, I had to start bringing my own. Lately, I've been filling a thermos with hot chocolate every morning, and that keeps me warm on the walk to school. But today, Dad must have grabbed my thermos and left me with his, and I didn't realize that had happened until I took a giant gulp of cream of mushroom soup. Fish. I wish Mom and Dad would drive me to school in the morning, but they leave a half hour before I do. There's some kids in my hill whose parents drive them in cold day like today. But when me and Rolly try to flag them down to hitch a ride, they won't even make an eye contact. And that really sticks. Well, because all hills kids are supposed to have each other back. And so it was so cold outside that the teacher decided to keep us indoor for recesses, which was perfectly fine with me. The last time we had an outdoor recess on a day like today, Albert Sandy was saying it was so cold that your spits would freeze before it hit the ground. Well, it turned out he was wrong, and recesses today was a total nightmare. Usually indoor recess isn't much fun. We're supposed to play board games and do arts and craft, but kids always get related and find ways to liven things up. But do chess, squirts. So today our teacher said we were going to try something new. She taught us how to play a game called Museum, where everyone has to freeze like a statue and hold still as long as possible. The thing I don't like about being indoor at school in the winter is that a lot of kids are sick, and I really don't want someone getting me sick. Our school is full of germs, and nobody covered their mouth, and they cough or sneeze. Walking down the hallway between the classes is like walking world, a war zone. Achoo! Cough. Nobody remembers sneeze into the crop of their arms, and kids like Albert Sandy aren't helping things. Today at lunch, Albert told a story about the guy who covered his knees, and when he did, he blew his head clean off. Blam! I told Albert his story wasn't true, but his word it was. He said the guy actually survives, and now he works as a grocery bagger at a local market. Albert always spreading bad information like that. The kids at my table believe every word he says, so now there's zero chance any of these guys will cover their mouth the next time they have to sneeze. A couple of weeks ago, Albert said that when someone dies in the winter, they have to wait until the ground thaws in the spring before it can be buried. He said they need somewhere to keep their pets in the meantime. Albert said the people in our town used the school cafeteria walk in freezer to the store their pets for the winter. And that's right, now it's full to capacity. It's almost positive this is just another one of Albert's stupid made-up stories. But until we find out pig, I'm not gonna order the pork barbecue special just in case. I'm seriously thinking of changing lunch table because I'm tired of sitting with the Albert Sandy and all these other idiots every day. One kid I won't miss is Teddy Silverly, who wears the same sweater all winter long. Today, Teddy's sweater has never been clean, and there are food stains all over it. Sometimes the kids at my table try to guess what each stain is, which is what they were doing today. Sniff, sniff, lick. See, this is the reason girls at my school have pictures of pop singer in the locker. The guys in my grade just aren't giving them any good. I can even imagine how many germs are on Daddy's sweater, which is why I sit at least 2 seats away from him. So most of my brain power at school on keeping tabs on whose germ are where, and I've already filled up notebooks this winter. 10 3 a.m. Justin tea sneeze on hand and touch button on the water fountain. 10:20 10:20 a.m. Slowly M cough on pencil sharpener. 10:23 a.m. Dylan L didn't wash hands after using the bathroom. The time like it's get tricky is when you have twins like Jermaine and Jameson and Garza. I can't tell. Then Albert and today it looked like me. One was sick, but the other one wasn't. Cough. So I shot spitball into the sick one hairs to make it easier to keep track of him. But the only good thing about being ill is the cherry gloves Mom gives me when I have a sore throat. I know you're supposed to suck on them really slow, but I chew those things like candy, and I go through a few pack a day. The girl in my grade loves the smell of cherry losses, which almost making being ill worth it. So unfortunately, the guys in my grade like the smell too, and like the smell too. Oh my gosh. And they're always trying to get me to give them some. A few weeks ago, I felt sore throat coming on, and I brought a 3-pack of cherry loaf to school with me. I kept 1 pack in my pocket and the other 2 in my locker. But Jake go sniff out the pack. I was keeping my locker, and by the time I found out, speed bump and already picked up the lock. Choo choo chomp choo crunch. I wish I didn't have to go to school at all during cold and flu season. Maybe one day I'll buy one of those big plastic bubbles so I'm not explode to the other kid's germ. But I'm sure my bubble won't last a day before some jerk pop it. Cough, cough, splats. Even though I hate being ill, I'm kind of glad they haven't come up with a cure for cold yet. Because if they did, I wouldn't be able to fake being ill and stay home from school to play video games. Cough, I'm not feeling so good. Yeah, right. So today it was even colder. Today it was even colder on the walk home than it was a walk to school. And this time me and Rolly were facing a wind, which made it 10 times worse. Chatter, chatter, chatter. It was so bad that we had to make a few pit stops on the way home. The first places we ducked into is a pizza shop because there's a big oven in there, so it's always warm inside. But when the guy who owned the place realized we weren't gonna buy anything, so he kicked us out. Our next stop was the town library. That's a public building, and I knew they couldn't tell us to leave. But when the librarian started getting pushy with a book, we left on our own. I wish we'll use the bathroom in the library before. We headed back outside, though, because when we got halfway home, really needed to go. We knocked on a few doors, but when people saw us, they pretend they weren't home. We finally got autumn. So we finally got someone to answer, but by that point, Rolly's face was frozen. He couldn't even form word. Fuzz. By the time he got to Surrey Street, I thought Rolly was gonna medical emergency, but I knew none of the lowest people were gonna let us inside their house. There's a big rock by Mr. Guest's front yard. And I told Rolly he should duck behind it to do his business. Personally, I wouldn't pee outside in this kind of cold because Albert Sandy told us a story about what happened to a guy who did, but I didn't feel like it was the right time to mention to Rolly. But I'm not really sure he had do a number one anyway. Whatever he was doing back there, he was taking forever. Some of the lower street kids came out of their house to play, and before long Rolly had drawn around, he just walked off because I really don't want people to know I was with him. That was woof, 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 woof. Thankfully, Rolly wrapped things up, and we get out of there before anyone realized that he was doing. Because this is just the sort of stupid thing they could ended up striking a war on Tuesday. So it was seriously cold in the morning. So I dug my scarf and a pair of old gloves out of the wardrobe. Mom said I should wear the mitten Grandma knitted for me last winter, but when she made those things, she forgot to add the thumb. Knit, knit. So whenever I put them on, it basically like wearing sock on my hand, and they're too totally useless a snowball fight. Fa, bap. Mom said I should wear an earmuff too, but the thing I've learned is that kind of you can't hear them coming. You're just asking for it. Step, 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 step. The reason I get so cold because I'm skinny and I don't have any ill in solution. Every winter, I try to eat a lot of give myself an extra layer out of the bubbler. But I guess I've got a fast manageable because nothing I do ever seems to work. Plop. I think it was something like minus 10 degrees outside the morning, and one of the walk to school, I started wondering if the person's blood could freeze. I've heard people do something like 60% water, so I guess it's possible, but it kind of feel like something Albert Sandy would make up. What I was worried about the most was frosted. But by the time it was halfway to school, my ear was stinging, and I really wish I had listened to Mom about the earmuff. I thought one of my ears might actually fall off, and that's I wouldn't notice until I was in the class. Mr. Alfie, do you have your homework? It wasn't just my ear. I was worried about though. Apparently, there are a lot of body parts that you can frozen. Hey, I wouldn't want to lose my nose because I'll look like a freaky without nose. Then again, my deck in a social study is right next to bathroom, so at least that situation would get a little better. Ah. Plus, my nose always run of cold day, and I never realized I've got frozen shot on my face until it's too late. Hey. So I like to hang out on my lips too, because if I didn't have them, it would be always look like I was smiling. In certain situations, that could be a real problem. I'm glad you find this amusing. Sniff. I was lucky I found those gloves because I wouldn't want to lose any fingers either. The only thing I'll be willing to give up is my pinky toes because I hardly ever see them. The last time I can remember I used them was when I was in preschool and when I needed to count to 20, but other than that, I'm drawing a blank. 18, 19, 20? I guess a lot of other kids were worried about frosting too because when I got to school, frostbite too. Because when I got to school, there's a whole line of boys in the bathroom waiting to use his hand dryer. And what made me 5 minutes late for first parade, it wasn't as windy as walk home today, but it was as cold that me and Rolly stopped at the pizza places again to warm up because Rolly found a culprit for 2 free meatball subs in his coat pocket. Squish, squish. So after we walked to the pizza places, we still had a long way to walk. But that's when I had an idea. My grandma's house is halfway between our school and Surrey streets, and I knew there was no one home. That's because Grandma goes down south each winter and doesn't come back until the spring. During the winter, Grandma sent us pictures of herself and her friends in their bathing suits to let us know that she's having a good time. God! So Grandma took her dog, Sweetie, with her too. So while I'm freezing my butt off up here, it's great to know Sweetie's lying on the beach down south, soaking on the sun. Grandma usually keep a key inside her garden, come right as the front door, and I'm sure enough they exactly where it was today. Jingle, jingle. I figure we could use Grandma's house to warm up, and before the last push home, Rolly was nervous about us going inside the no adult home, but I wanted to his grandma was family, and she wanted me to use her bathroom, her house while she was away. But when we walked in, I was pretty surprised. It was like a freezer in there, so I guess Grandma turned down the thermostat for the winter. So usually Grandma cracked up the heat when she's home, so the warm that you have to eat your ice cream sandwich with the freezer drawer open, and the ice cream will melt on your hand. Chew, chew. The first thing I did when we got inside Grandma was to turn up the thermometer. It was taking a while for the house to heat up. So I turned off the oven and we were up in a hurry. Grandma had a bunch of snacks in her refrigerator and me and Rolly helped ourselves. But while we were eating, we saw some movement outside the front door. It was Mrs. Mackie O'Neill, Grandma's Snoopy next door neighbor. She must have noticed light from the fridge, and now she was trying to see inside. We stayed out of the sight, and eventually Mrs. Michael Nail went away. But now I knew we had to be careful because I really didn't her calling the cops. So Grandma had a bunch of so we stayed out of the sight, and eventually I didn't call her the cops. So we got down low and went into the living room, and Grandma has her TV. Grandma has all the cable channels, and luckily she didn't shut those down for the winter, but we couldn't risk Adam Mrs. Michael Nail again. So we put a blanket all over our sofa and the television and watched it that way. I guess we kind of lost track of time because when we shut off the TV, it was dark out. By now, it was nice to toasty in Grandma's house. And now it was nice to toasty in Grandma's house. And I really didn't want to go back out there in the cold. So I had an idea for how to make the walk home a little more comfortable. I figured out we warmed up the clothes in Grandma's dryer before we headed back out. It would take the edge off our rest of the trip. So we went down to the basement where Grandma keeps her laundry machine and put in our clothes. So we set the timer in 30 minutes and waited, but in a little awkward hanging out in our underwear while the dryer did its thing. Plus it was cold in the basement, so we looked around for something to wear. Rolly found this white sweatshirt I gave Grandma for her birthday, and he put that on, but I didn't feel right wearing Grandma clothes. World's best Grandma. Inch. So I found a sweater that Grandma needed for Sweetie, and I found a sweater that Grandma needed for Sweetie, and it fitted better than I expected. But it was a little itchy, and I couldn't remember a Sweetie I've ever had a fleece. But while I was looking around for something to snap it with, we heard a noise upstairs. Inch, inch. By the first thought, it was Grandma had given Mrs. McElnoyle a key to the house, but now she was inside. But Rolly said it might be a burglar who knew one was home, and I thought maybe he was right. Plump, plump. We heard some more stomping around upstairs, and when the door to the basement opened, we both freaked out. I looked around for something to use to defend myself, but the best I could come up with a toilet burglar. Stomp, stomp. The footstep house when they got near the bottom, and that's when we made our move. We turned out it wasn't Mrs. McClellan. Wasn't a burglar either. It was Mom. Scream! Scream! She was there to do a load of laundry since our washing machine at home is broken. Mom didn't say much. She just told us to get our winter clothes back on and get in the car. And she was totally silent to drive back to our neighborhood, which was really work. I figured out that as soon as Rolly was out for the car, Mom was gonna yell at me for being at Grandma's house without permission. But she didn't say anything, and she didn't mention it to Dad during the dinner either. After I finished doing the dishes, Mom told me she wanted to have a talk in my room. She said it was perfectly normal for a boy my age to play make-believe, and that there was nothing to feel ashamed of. But she said she was glad me and Rolly were using our imagination instead of playing video games. I have no idea what Mom thought we were doing in Grandma's basement, but to be honest with you, I kind of wish she had just ground at me instead. So in February, Wednesday, it's been snowy the past few days, and last night we got inches, and it's got another inch and a half. Unfortunately, that wasn't enough to close the school, and even if there was snow more than that, I don't think they wouldn't give us a day off. We only a certain amount of snow day each year, and if we use them all, then we have to make up during the summer holiday. And we already burned most of our snow day for the winter, even though some of them technically wasn't used because of the snow. So in December, the school shut down for 3 days because of lice epidemic. What had happened was that Lily Bonder came to school with had lices, but I guess she didn't know they spread. Then she took a picture with her friends. Sprung, sprung. So if there's staying a hot classroom in July, I guess we can all thank Lily for taking a selfie. Sometime when it snows in the morning, they'll give us a half day. But I'm not a big fan of half day because we still have a walk all the way just to put in a few hours at school. What really stick when in school? Look at the weather forecast and decide if vengeance the next day is gonna be a half day. So on a half day, the school schedule is the same, but everything takes a half the time. That gets for detention too, and all the bullies in our school know that if they do something bad the day before a half day, they'll only get half the punishment. And so sometimes school get canceled because it's supposed to the snow, and that it doesn't. That because of school relief on a local TV weatherman, the forecaster, and He's wrong at least 50% of the time. Corey goof again. And so on New Year's Eve, he said it was gonna be t-shirt, short weather. The next day, well then it snowed 3 inches, and when people saw him in the grocery store, they let him know they weren't happy. Honestly, I don't see this is still his job, but I guess as long as people like my parents tune it every night, he's not going anywhere. I really whiff on that one floor. We love you anyway, Gary. find one of my gloves this morning, and I looked for the replacement. I was already running late, so the best I could come up with was a puppet Mom bought to try to get me a healthy food when I was younger. Missy Muzzle loved vegetables. Nom nom nom. I guess Mom thought that if Mrs. Muzzle liked vegetables, then I will too. But I used Mrs. Muzzle to eat my vegetable. When I found him today in the cupboard, he still had stains on his faces from the peas, and I wouldn't touch in second grade. Nom nom nom. It and it's kind of regulars to wear a puppet as a glove, and I mostly remember to keep that thing tucked in my coat pocket on the walk to school. But that Casey French rode by in her mom car. I totally forgot Mrs. Muzzle was still on my hand. Hi. Speaking of girl, there's been a big change to safety patrol to the past few weeks. There used to be a lot of boys in the patrol, but most of them quit or kicked off because of the start of the New Year's. And the last 2 days, the patrol was Eric. Rollins and Dolphin Finch were both captain, but they had their badge taken away in the first week of January, and they got in a snowball fight in front of the kindergarten classroom in elementary school. So now the safety patrol are 100% girl, and I'll bet they have been planning a takeover a while. The reason is because the guys at my school can be real jerk, and now it's no, they're really bad. After for a while, I'm sure the girl got sick of it, and that's why they put themselves in charge. Bap. Now that's the girl in the power. They're not messing around, and if you throw a single snowball on a school day, the safety patrol will report you to the principal, and I'll get the automatic suspended. So the girl are just praying one of us guy will step out of the line. Today the road was clear, but the pavement wasn't. Whenever that happened, me and Rolly just walking the road, but these new safety just walk on the road. But these new safety patrol are stickler for the rules, and they won't let us walk in the road, even though they do it. Tweets, step, but practically impossible to walk to the pavement. But when it hasn't been plowed, especially when people are clearing their driveway. So in fact, it's hard to even know there was a pavement is. And this morning, I almost buzzed a key cap on a fire hydrant. It was buried in a snowdrift. The thing that really sticks is that safety patrol, all us guys, walk on the pavement, but they let us the girl walk on the road. And so, when me and Rolly got to school today, we were in a totally wiped out of the trip in, but the girl in our class was fresh and ready to go. And if one of them goes on the president, it's because they got universal adventures. Back in middle school, who would like to come to the board and do this problem? I didn't really blame the safety patrols for sticking the guys in my grade. Most boys are basically diligent, and they've been clever guys. Look back. This new safety patrol situation, I've been thinking they might be away from me too. Separate myself with those fools. If I can work for safety patrols, I can stay on their good side. And if I report, so by this new safety patrol situation, I've been thinking they might be away from me to separate myself from those fools. If I can work for the safety patrol, I can stay on the good side, and I report the troublemaker to the girl, and then they will own me. For some reason, Though snitching is really frowned in some my school. If you a kid for doing something wrong, then everyone says you are tattle. It is hard to recover from that. But from that I can tell the only people that know snitching think of for the belly. I'm sure they're the ones who came up with the idea in the first places. I didn't tattle on you. Thanks. Whack. So personally I don't have any problem with the snitching. And apparently to make money for being a tattletale. Rory told me about a guy in his high school who turned about to notch, which means the guy pretend to be high schooler, but was actually a cop. This excuse. I read about this kind of thing before in some time. I wonder if there are nerds in some middle school too. There's a new kid named Shane Browning who came to school in the middle of the year, and he looked a lot older than the rest of us. I'm starting to wonder if maybe he's a nerd. So I've been giving him this inside scoop on my classmate, and just in case he is, Jason Swan is choosing a gum in class. Anyway, the snow situation causing a lot of problem from the past few days. Kids have been wearing personally. Rory told. Okay, so just anyway, the snow situation causing a lot. Anyway, the snow situation is causing a lot of problem. For the past few days, kids have been wearing the boots in school, and everyone tracks snow down the hallway. So today, the teacher made everyone take off their boots in the measuring, but the snow on the boots melt and make a giant puddle. Then the kids walk through the puddle. Then the kids walked through the puddle on the way to school, on the way to class, and before long enough, their everyone's socks were soaked. One thing led to another, and by third parade, it was just a completed chaos the whole way. It got so bad that the teacher had to collect all the socks and keep them in the front of the office. Plop. So there's a bunch of barefoot middle schooler isn't such a great thing either. Sniff, sniff. At the end of the day, we all went to the front office and get socks, but most socks looked like the same, so no one could tell which one belonged to whose. Luckily, Jake Michalkoff has a really good sense of smell, and he paraded each kid came up with the correct socks. Sniff, sniff. He even get the sock right before the Garrison twins, which was admit is pretty impressive. I was glad a little worm on the way home today, since me and Rolly didn't have grandma's house to pay a pit stop. But that didn't mean the walk home was easy. You're not allowed to throw a snowball on the way home from school, but after you get home, you can do anything you want, since the kids who live close to the school have figured out. But they have dropped the bag off the house, and it counts as being home. Then they came after the kids like me and Rolly, who still have a long way to walk. Ding, zip, ding, zip, bap, biff. But the safety patrol got abused too. But rules are rules. They're not allowed to fight back, and they make attack from both sides. From the kids on my hill, can't lift home walk halfway back to school just to get their legs in. And it was supposed to snow another few inches tomorrow. I told my parents they're saving up for snowmobile. So getting in school isn't such a hard day like today. But mom and dad started listing all the reason why a middle school kid have a mobile and have a while. I kind of tuned them out. So anytime came up with the good idea, my parents shut it down. Then it did exact same thing when I had my dog sled idea last winter. I figured I brought a new few dogs and trained them to pull a sled. Heading to school in the morning would be a snack. But I guess my parents thought I was joking, though, because they told me I should go for it. But when I used my Christmas money to buy little puppies from a lady up the street, mom and dad made me return every last one. And so, on Thursday today I remind me why the winter is at least favorite time of year. It was another snowy day, but this morning I decided to do some extra preparation to stay warm on the way to school, and Dad lit a fire before he left for work and figured out I could use it to warm up my coat and boots before I put them on. But I left my boots too close to the fire and the rubber so melted and a brick. So when it was time to go, they wouldn't budge. Rolly was coming to get me in any time, any minute, so I had to figure out to do something else to wear on my feet. I knew the safety patrols wouldn't let us walk in the road, and my sneaky were gonna get soaked if I had to walk through the snow. Skin scratch. I've got to say my snowshoes worked even better than I expect. In fact, it was moving along so fast that Rolly had trouble keeping up with me. And so, but once we got to the bottom of the street, things fell apart into the box of Soki, and I started sinking into the snow, and even worse than having sneakers on, because now I was dragging those wet boxes along with me. I knew this wasn't working on, so I really tried to help me in the boxes of my sneaker, but it was practical impossible because they were double wrapped and duct tape. Unfortunately, we were right at the edge of the grooming yard, and they got 11 dogs. The dogs were curious about what we were doing, and that wasn't helping things. And so the dog got her crutches and started fighting over the pizza boxes. That's when I remembered there were a few slices of pizza still in them. Snort, growl, rip. And so the dog threw a pizza box, and thankfully it didn't take off my feet. We got out of there as quick as we could, but the sneakers were getting soaked in the snow. But we got out of there as quick as. So I think it's enough for today, and goodbye!